Alright, so this is the project that we have to build in this video. I won't waste much of your time, so this is how it will look like. You will have four mappings basically for your four CRUD operations. So you have create, you have read, you have update, and you have delete. So if you do post, it will look something like this, and when you send this data you would see ID as an argument and everything similar. Then you have two get operation, which is for get all employees and get employee by ID. Then you have a put operation based on an employee ID and the data that you provide. Lastly, you have delete operation, and you can delete based on an ID. So after watching this video, you would be confident enough to basically work with MongoDB, because we are just not going to talk about Postman and IntelliJ code creation. We are also going to talk about Studio 3T. So let's continue in the video. But before we do that, if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, please do that. It's a simple thing and it's free. So please subscribe to my channel. And the code for this project that we have built is going to be in my GitHub repository. So don't worry about it, just copy it from there. So let's continue. Alright, so before we actually work on MongoDB and our Spring Boot application, let's talk about what is MongoDB. So imagine that you are building a giant digital Lego castle, which is basically your application. Now you need a way to store all your little Lego pieces, which could be your user profiles, product listing, memes, cat videos, etc. So it can be anything. Now MongoDB is like a big toy box where you can throw in your Lego pieces without caring about their exact shape, and you can just say, hey Mongo, here is a user, they like pizza and their dog's name is Rocky, and which is actually true for me, my dog's name is Rocky, and Mongo is like, cool, got it, it's saved. So this is a NoSQL database, which means that instead of organizing data like Excel sheet, tables, rows, columns like in Oracle or MySQL, MongoDB stores data like flexible JSON like documents, which is called as BSON or BSON, whatever you say. Now, so this makes a developer's life easy if you don't have to properly format a data like we do in Oracle or relational databases. Now, why do we need MongoDB? I think this is pretty much clear. So modern apps are like toddlers, which is fast growing and chaotic. Sometimes they are chaotic. Now you start storing usernames, then you add user hobbies, then add a list of previous orders, then their pet's name and favorite snack. So this is your modern application. So in MySQL or Oracle, you would need to keep altering your tables, adding columns, writing migration scripts, bagging the DBA, praying nothing breaks. So that is how things were in relational databases. But with MongoDB, you just save the new data as in a new document, and MongoDB is like, oh, new field, cool, I am chill, and it just saved that new information without breaking anything which is already existed. So MongoDB is very flexible, scalable, and is designed for speed. Now, when should you use MongoDB? This is not like you have to use it everywhere, right? So there are going to be few scenarios where MongoDB won't fit and few scenarios where this is a perfect fit. So use it when your data is changing constantly, as in your columns or maybe complete structure is reformatted. So for example, user profiles, product listing. If you want to move fast, if you are working in a startup organization or you are just starting from scratch, then you should use MongoDB. If you are building apps that use JSON heavily, like your Node.js or React applications, and if you don't want to stress about altering schemas every time, then MongoDB is a perfect fit. So now you know why we should use MongoDB and what is MongoDB. So let's see what MongoDB looks like and how do we actually do operations like CRUD operations on MongoDB. Alright, so the first thing first would be to install MongoDB. So this is the official website of the MongoDB. So here you can see all sort of information related to products, whatever they have, and you can download any. But we are going to start slow, as in we are going to do everything for free. So here you see that here we have community edition. So let's click on download. So I'm using Mac OS right now, but for your operating system, you can choose accordingly. If you have Windows, you can just download the MSI and click download. For me, it's Mac, so I'm going to go with Mac OS. So let's quickly do that. So I'm in my terminal right now, and let me just do the same steps that we have here. So you can go to any path, whatever you like. Let me do brew install MongoDB Atlas, and as you can see here, it is trying to download. Alright, so it's downloaded, and as you can see here, it has removed a lot of files from cache, and I can see that it is doing something for MongoDB Atlas here, which we need to do. So now we just have to type this command atlas setup. So let's do that. So now it is asking me to create a new account. So let me quickly do that. Accept, submit. Alright, so it says welcome to MongoDB Atlas, the modern database, and here I have to provide the code. So let me quickly do that. So this is the code that we have to provide, and then confirm authorization. Alright, so your account is ready, return to CLI, and if you see here, I see that successfully logged in as my email address, and here I see cluster name, cloud provider, and sample data and stuff like that. So how do you want to set up your Atlas cluster? Use arrows. So you can use default, you can use custom. So I'm going to go with default and press enter. So it is deploying my cluster into this provider region. So now you can see that the username is this one and the password is this one. So this is my connection string that I have to use. So that we will use in the UI itself. Now for UI, what we need to do is we need to download a GUI application. So that application is Compass. So just click on this. This is the official page, so it's safe. Just click on download. And as you can see here, the full version with all features is available. So this version is limited strictly to read operation with all the write and delete capabilities removed. This version disables all network connections except the connection to the MongoDB instance. So we are going to download the Compass because this is going to give you the full version of MongoDB with all the features and capabilities, right? So here you can see that this is the stable version as of now, and the operating system for me is this one. You can choose according to your operating system, and similarly the package. So let's download this. Alright, so let me just move it to my applications, and I'm good to go. Alright, how would you like to connect to your cluster? Use arrows. So I'm going to use Compass because this is a GUI application and we want to do that for read and write operations. Alright, so now it will launch MongoDB Compass. Okay, so it's taking some time to open, but yeah, this is opening for the first time, so maybe that's why. Alright, so welcome to Compass, start. Okay, so now it is asking me to provide a connection, so click on add new connection. but you don't have to do that because by default I'm getting connected to my cluster, which is this one. So as you can see here, 13668 13668, so it is by default trying to connect. So let's wait for it. Alright, so it's connected and this will load up in a while, and I see all sort of information here. So this is the sample information that you have in this connection. You can create a sample database to basically do all sort of operation, which we are going to do now. So the first step would be to create a new database. So there are multiple options to do that. If you click on this button plus, then you can create a database, or if you just click on this, you would see all sort of details, and then you will have this plus create database button as well. So let's do that. So as we are going to create a Spring Boot application later on, I'm going to give this a name of Spring Boot, and then the collection name, so employee. Then click on create database. So as you can see here, we have this database as Spring Boot. The spelling is wrong, but the collection employee is there. So let's quickly rename this. Alright, so now it's corrected. Now we have Spring Boot as database name, and then we have employee as the collection. So in the collection we don't have any documents, and it's obvious because we haven't provided any. And aggregations, then you have schema, indexes, and validation. So for now let's start slow and let's add a document to this. So let's click on this add data button and click on insert document. So this is the default format that you have, which you can refer basically. So we are going to use a similar format. So let me clean everything up from here and use these brackets. So this is going to be in a JSON format, right? So you have to use the same format here. Now the argument, what parameters you want to provide for this collection. So I'm going to go with name, and let's say Shriram. Alright, so if you just insert this, what will happen? What do you expect? So this is a new entry. So as you can see here, we just provided the name here, and the ID got generated by default for us. So this we don't have to bother about. This we can see for us now. So you can click on this edit button to edit the name, the existing functionality, or provide any other columns that you want. You can click on this to copy the functionality whatever you have in this. Then you have clone document, which is going to clone it because yeah, it's obvious. And this copy to clipboard can be used for your queries basically. So when you have to hit a query, maybe using a code or maybe using your own testing, so you can use this GUI application to copy the ID. So you can copy this to clipboard, and basically you don't have to select and then copy. And then you have this delete button. For obvious reasons, you can click on this and delete. Now if you see here, we have these views. So this is the first view that we have. Then we have this view. So if you click on this, this is going to give it into a JSON format, and then if you expand on this, you can see the object ID, right? The similar view that we have seen here. Now the third view is this one. So here you see the data like this, right? So this is a table view. Now let's add a new collection to basically show you the nested structure as well. So this is JSON, so it can have a nested structure, as well as you can have arrays. Now if you feel like this cluster is running very slow, if you don't see hits very quickly like I am right now, you can just ignore running on cluster, because this is free tier and it can have a lot of latency. So what I recommend is basically install MongoDB server, right? So for me it's a simple command. Alright, now I have MongoDB here. Now I need to install MongoDB community. So currently 8.0.11 is the latest version, so I'm going to go with that. I think this is already installed for me, but I'm just doing it so that nothing is missed. Alright, so it says to install MongoDB, run brew install MongoDB community. Task as in MongoDB Compass. To install MongoDB Compass, run this. Alright, so I think I'm good because, like I said, this is already done for me, so I can simply ignore this. Now I have to run. So now to run this, basically what we need to do is, so let me first try with this as well. Let's see if something is missed or not. Okay, so it seems like it is trying to download. So yeah, something was missed. Now it has downloaded whatever was left. Now I think I'm good. So now it is giving me the command to basically run. So let me copy this, paste it, and it says successfully started MongoDB community, and I'm good. Now coming to Compass again, click on connection. So let me first delete this connection because I think this is what causing the slowness. Alright, so now in the connection box I have by default this localhost 27017, which is good because this is the default port. And just click on save and connect. You can give it a name as well, so let me give it a name. Somehow it feels like this application is slow, so yeah, I don't know, but yeah, it is very slow for me. Alright, now similarly the same steps that we have done before is to create a new database. So Spring Boot app, and the collection name is going to be employee. Alright, so now if you see that this application is very slow for your system like it is for me, so this is one of the application that you can use for basically a trial. And if in case this is not working for you, then you have the shell where you can basically type on the commands, which basically works similar to what you do in GUI application, but it's just that you won't see any GUI as in interface, right? So I have downloaded this one for free, and it didn't ask me about anything related to credit card or any banking details. So I think I'm good for 14 days. And if you are just learning, I think trial is going to work for you. You can use any users that you would like if in case you want to extend it further from 14 days. Alright, so now let's open this. Now I have to log in successfully. So what I have to do is basically I need to sign in with Google. So let's do that. Then you have to fill these information, and which I obviously have to hide. Alright, now we have to copy this code. So let's copy this. And here it says after successful login or registration, the window will automatically refresh. So need to type an activation code. Click on this and paste the code that you have just copied. Alright, now it's asking me to allow, so I'll allow this and then hit finish. Alright, now we have to add a new connection. So you can create a new MongoDB cluster as well, but I have already created that. So I'll just click on add new connection and going to terminal, just copy this, paste it here and hit next. Has been successfully auto configured, so we don't have to do anything. Now click on this test connection to see if it is working fine for you. So everything is returning as OK. So click OK, click save, expand this, and yeah, we are good to go. So click on next, use default password encryption, next, write to queries, schema validation, finish. Alright, now you can close this window, we don't need this. You can close this as well, click on don't show again, and yeah, pretty much it. With this you can basically do everything what you have to do with your cluster. But like I said, but what I need is I am going to create a new connection which is going to be a basic local database connection like we have for every application, where we have to build from scratch, right? So click on this new connection and type on the URI that you have for basic connection. So for me it is going to be MongoDB localhost and the default port, which is going to be 27017. Alright, click on next and it says successful. So click on test connection, okay, and give it a name. So I'm going to go with Spring Boot app connection. Alright, hit save and close. So here we have our two connections. So double click on this and you have the connection opened. So we have this database created and we have this table with us employee. So this is what we need to do. Now inside this employee we don't have anything, and you see that in the result we don't see anything. So let's create a new document. So how to do that? It's very simple. So if you see here we have this button for add document. So click on this. So what we did previously is we just created a name. So we are going to do the same thing here and we are going to give it a name, Shriram, and you can validate this JSON as well. So it says document contains valid JSON. Okay, you can format as well if you don't press proper enters or maybe comma, right? And then click on add document. So when you do that you can see that it is created for you. And here if you see there are more buttons, like you have add document here, then you have view document, edit document, find value, show update dialog, and then you have show delete dialog, right? And by default we are at table view. When you click on this you see tree view, which will look something like this. Here you can expand and see the details. Then you have JSON view, which looks like this, and this is the most appropriate one, but again it differs according to your preference. So I'm going to go with table view for now, and let me expand this. So this is the ID and this is the name. ID got generated automatically, we don't have to bother about that, and the name we have provided. Now let's add another document, but here we are going to follow a nested structure. So let's give it a name. So name, let's say John Doe, and let's do mail John Doe at gmail.com. Then we have to give a different structure. So John is an employee in an organization, so he must be working in a department. So let's do department, press enter. Now a department should have a name, right? So here you can do name and let's say technology. Alright, so here we have everything. Now what we need to do is we can click on validate JSON if you want to see if it is properly formatted or not. If you have spaces like this is also fine. When you click on validate, it is going to do that, but when you click on format JSON, it is going to remove those spaces. And if you enable word wrap, it won't do anything because we don't have anything here. Alright, now when you click on add document, you can see that now you have more columns. You previously had only name, now we have mail as well, and then we have department. Now when you double click on this department, you will see document ID and then the name. So this is technology, that's it. Now let's see tree view. Tree view will look like this. So here you have name, mail, and then department. Department has just name. Alright, now if this view is basically driving you crazy, in that case what you can do is you just click on this visual query builder and it is going to be bigger now. Now that we have created a nested structure, because this is a JSON, so we can have arrays here as well. So let's create another document which will follow that format. So let's say name Jane Doe, and similarly we will have email. So let's say Jane Doe at gmail.com, and then we have an array. So let's say that Jane is currently working on some projects, right? So projects. Now maybe Jane is allocated partially to multiple projects, right? That can happen. So it will have an array, and then it will follow structure again like this. So let's say first project is, so name, and then the first project name is Gen AI, and let's say allocation, which is 50, right? Now again we will have another one, and here let's say automation, and again allocation, let's say 50. Now let's say if I miss the comma here, so if I click on validate JSON, it says unexpected character, and it also specifies the line. So it says line number 10 column 9. So line number 10 is this one, which is wrong. It should be line number 8, right? So let's add the comma, click on validate JSON, and it says valid document. Now let's click on add document. So now what we see is we have name, mail, then we have projects. We have two projects. First one is Gen AI, second one is automation, right? So if you go to table view and click on employee, you see that now we have another column as projects. Now we have three documents with us, right? We have Shriram, we have John Doe, we have Jane Doe. Now let's say that we want to read this, so we can simply see it right now. But let's say if we want to do a query to basically fetch what we have in this collection, so how do we do that? So here we see that we have this query option, and we just need to click on this second button here, which is query JSON editor, and here whatever you want to do you can do, and click on run. Right now if I just do run, it is going to simply give me all the details because I'm not specifying what I want. Let's say that if I want to fetch this this row using this ID, so how do we do that? So the column name is ID and the object ID is this one. So just copy this, copy value as text. Alright, now click on second button again, and here let's say the column name, what was the column name? It was ID. Then we need to provide the value. Alright, now if you click on validate, it says the text contains valid JSON. Click OK and then hit run. Now if you see, we didn't got anything here. Why? Because if you go to JSON view, now let me just copy this from here, remove this from here, and if I run this, what you see in the JSON view is that in the ID we don't have just the value, we have object ID as a method, and then inside that we have the argument, right? So similarly we have to follow the same steps. So going back again, here this won't work, so here we have to enclose this with object ID. So object ID, and here just do it like this, click on validate, click run. Now what do you see? You see the same row, and you can change the view itself. You can see it in a tree view, you can see it in a table view, you got the details, right? So this is how you basically fetch the row using the ID column. Now let's say you don't want to fetch using ID, you want to fetch using any other column. So how do we do that? So first let me clean everything from here, click on run. So we have multiple columns. We have name, we have mail, we have department, and then we have project. So let's say if we want to fetch the data using name, so let's say name. So hit this again, and here instead of id, use the column name. So here you don't need to specify the object id because that's not an object. So what is the column name? It's name. What's the data that you're looking for? Let's say Shri Ram. Now hit validate, click on run, you got the data. Let's say if I made a boo-boo, as in if let's say I made a mistake on the name, if I did Shri Rama, will it run it? No, it won't, right? So this is how you can do basically a read document query on the existing documents. Now let's say if you want to update a document, so there are multiple ways you can basically select this row, right click on it, and click on update dialog, right? So with this you will be prompted, with this you will see document like this. So this is your query and this is the update, what you want to do. This is your first way. Now the second way is that if you see here we have this dialog which is show update dialog. So similarly you can do it like this. Now what I like most is that what you can do is go to JSON view, right? Now the third way is that let's say if I want to modify the name, let's say I want to rename Shri Ram to Shri Rama. Just double click on it and provide the detail, and once you do that you will get this kind of a window when you click on this three dot button. And here it says that add documents updated through this operation to collection history. This may increase the time necessary to complete this operation, which is okay with us. Just click on OK and you're good to go. Now if you run the query again, what do you see? You see the name and the updated name, right? So this is very simple. But let's say if you want to do this update using a query, right? So how do you do that? So go to this IntelliShell local. So it says it can automatically execute a default query when you open a new. Would you like to enable this feature? You say yes, and you will see like this. If you run this, this is a run command, you would see the data like this. Now what do we need is we need to do update. So let's remove this. Let's say db dot, what do we have in collection? We have employee, right? And then what operation we want to do is we want to do update. So update. Now here again we need to follow the JSON structure. So provide the name that you want to update. So that would be Shri Ram. So this is the detail that you need to provide which you want to search. So it's not Shri Ram, it's Shri Rama. So I'm going to do with that. Now this is going to search the documents with the name Shri Rama, right? Now what do you want to set? So for this you need to add a comma here, and again add a JSON index, a JSON format, and then use $set. So this is going to set details. Now what do you want to set? That you need to provide here. So let's say name to Shri Ram. Alright, now let's run this. So it acknowledged, inserted ID, matched ID, modified count. So here it says the matched count as 1, as in when you did this it found a row. And how many rows? 1. Modified count, it modified how many rows? Again 1, right? So this is how you can do it. Now if I go back to employee, so currently it is Shri Rama, not Shri Ram. So when I click on run, you can see that it is now back to Shri Ram. Now similarly, if you want to modify or add new columns to it, you can also do that. So currently we don't have any email for Shri Ram. So let me do that. So if I do this, now you wouldn't find a name here, right? You would see Shri Ram only. So here let's say mail shriram@gmail.com, right? Now if I run this, you can see that again matched count was 1, modified count is 1. Now if I go to employee, if I run this, you can see that now I have mail. Now also I can rename it, and that will work again. So run this and you have both the columns updated, right? So this is how you can do it. Now talking about delete, so we are talking about CRUD operations here, which we basically have to do with our Spring Boot application as well. So we have used create, we have used read, we have just did update, now delete. So let's say that if I want to delete this row, so you have this delete dialog, right? So click on this, and when you click on delete, it will delete. So one document deleted. Now when you click on run, you can see that we do only have 2 rows. This was the first way. Now the second way would be to use a query like this. So here instead of update, we are going to use delete. So let's say delete. Now it has delete one and it has delete many. Now we only want to delete one, so I'm going to go with delete one, right? Now let's say the name, so I'm going to delete John Doe. So when I do this, hit run, what do you see? You see acknowledged as true, deleted count is 1. Now when I run this, I only see Jane Doe. So this is how you basically delete. Alright, now finally we are done with our CRUD operations, and now let's work with our Spring Boot application. So now for that, what we need to do is first we need to generate our Spring Boot application, and then we can further on work on the code. So let's quickly do that. Alright, so now let's go to Spring Initializer and let's create the project. So what do we need here? So first thing first is that go with Java, Maven, and choose the latest Spring Boot version. So we can choose 4.0.0, but again it's snapshot and not a stable version. So I'm going to go with 3.5.3 for now. Let's name this Spring Boot MongoDB demo. Alright, so it's a big name, going with Java 21. Let's add dependency. So here we are going to go with Spring Web for sure, and then we need MongoDB support. So just search for MongoDB, and here you see a lot of things, right? What we need is we need starter data MongoDB. So now click on explore, go to POM, and we have Spring Boot starter web, and we have Spring Boot starter data MongoDB, and we are good to go. Now download this, double click on it, and it's extracted. Let me open IntelliJ, and then you simply have to just import the project. So this is my project, and I have this project opened, and in the pom.xml we have all the information. And let's go to resources application.properties. So here we need to specify a few properties so that we can basically connect to our database. So the first thing is going to be spring.data.mongodb.host equals to localhost. Then the port number, so spring.data.mongodb.port 27017. So this is the default port. And lastly we need the database name, so spring.data.mongodb.database, and you have to give the database name. So my database name is Spring Boot app. Spring Boot app. Alright, now we are good with this. Now what we need is we need to specify some entities. Now what do I mean by entities? So entities are your tables that you use. So currently we have only one uh, collection as an employee, but the thing to remember is that we have few more dependencies like department and projects. So these are going to be your separate entities as well. So what do we need to do? We need to create a separate package first. Let's name this entity. Alright, now the entity package is created, so let's create classes. So the first class is going to be your employee. Now this employee is going to have few variables like ID, right? Then it will have name, email, then the class reference of your department, and then we need list of projects. Alright, now let's create these classes as well. So inside entity, create this class, and then same goes for your project. Now we need to generate some getters and setters, so let's quickly do that. So generate getter and setter, select all. Now this employee is basically a document, so we need to specify this as a document annotation. So and then we need to specify the collection name. So by default it looks for a small cased class name, so this would be employee, so you don't need to provide this. So the only thing is that if your collection name was employees as in plural, in that case you need to specify this property, otherwise you don't, because these both are actually same. But it's a good habit to have this in hand so that you know stuff, right? Now similarly what we can do is we can annotate these columns as field, because these are your field, and the name that you need to provide is the same for what we just talk about collection. So if let's say the name variable has to be mapped with the column with the name, let's say names, so in that case it pretty much makes sense to use a name attribute here in the annotation to clarify that this is going to be mapped with this column, right? But again we don't have to do this because it's same that we are using, so let's not go with that annotation. But now you know what you need to do if in case the column name and the variable name is different. Now let's quickly compare what we have. So we have ID, we have name, we have email, we have gender, we have department, and then we have project. So what did we miss? We missed gender, right? Everything else is good, so let's add that as well. And let's generate setters and getters for gender. Already. Now the one thing that we need to specify is the ID attribute, because you need to tell Spring that this is the primary key, and for this please keep this in mind that you need to generate the ID yourself, right? Otherwise, how would Spring know that this is your primary key? And we are done with this employee. Now coming to department. So in department, what do we have? Let's talk about that first. So in department, we have two fields. We have name and then we have business description. So let's quickly create those variables. Now again, we need to generate setters and getters. Now this department is basically not any document. So similarly what we did here, we don't need to specify anything here. Now similarly, let's do it for project. So what do we have in project? Let's go back. So in project we have name and allocation. So let's quickly add those, and setters and getters. Alright, now we are good to go. Alright, so now we are done with our entities. Now let's create repo. So for that, again, we need to create a new package. Let's name this repo, and inside repo let's create an interface. So the interface name is going to be employee repo. Alright, now this is a repo, so let's annotate this with the annotation repository. That's obvious. It's not mandatory, but it's good to annotate this with the annotation repository. Now we need to extend JPA here because we are going to use CRUD operation. So for MongoDB you have Mongo repository. Now this Mongo repository basically indirectly uses your CRUD operation like this. So you have list CRUD repository, and if you go inside, you can see that you have find all, save all, find all by ID methods, and this also uses CRUD repository which have save all, find by ID, and many methods that you can indirectly use. So that is the functionality that we want here, so which we are going to use. Now here we need to provide two arguments. First is the type of the object on which you want to have CRUD operation. So for me that's employee, and the primary key of that employee. So that is going to be string. Alright, why string? Because if you go to employee.java, you see that here the ID is a string. Ideally it should be long, that is the generic scenario, but if you see here in ID we have just not integers but characters as well, so that's why we need to use string here. Okay, so now that we have repository, the obvious thing is going to create a service layer as well. So let's quickly do that. Now why service layer are we using? Because that is the business logic or your main core logic of your application. So again we need to create a package. So let's create a package. Let's name this service, and inside here let's create class. So this class is going to use your employee repo. So this is going to be employee service, and remember here the annotation is very important to specify. So you need to annotate this with service for sure. This you cannot miss. Now this is going to use your employee repo, but how? You have to create an instance for that. So private employee repo and employee repo. Then you need to auto wire this so that we have a new object of this whenever you want to use it. Now what do we need here? We need to have some CRUD operations. So the first operation is to create a new employee, which is going to return an employee object. So create employee. Alright, now this will fetch, so this will have an employee object as an argument. Why? Because this is the data that you want to set in the database. So for this you have to use the repo, and inside repo you have methods like equals these many, but if you search for save, This is the common method for creation and for update. So just provide the object here, and this is what we need to return. Now the second operation is to get all employees, so that is going to be list. And here what we need to return is, again we have to use employee repo, then we have a method named find all. Alright, so this will return all the employees that we have in the database. Now you can also have a method for get employee by ID, so that is going to return an optional for you. So get employee by ID. Here we need to specify the ID, which is going to be in a string, and this is going to return employee repo dot find by ID and ID. Alright, now we have update employee. So we don't know what variables, as in what column of data we have modified in the existing row. So we need to set everything that is coming to us as an object. So how to do that? So first let's create the method. Now here we will have two arguments. The first argument is going to be ID, so that we know on which document or on which row we want to make a modification. So this is your identifier. Then you get the object, and this is the data that has been filled, so that we know that this is what we have to update, right? So return employee repo dot find. So that's the first thing, that we need to find the existing data. Now we have the data with us. Again, this is going to return an optional object. So we have an optional object. Now we need to map this data in a way that we get the updated information back after saving, right? So this is going to be a bit complex, but let me help you. So what we are doing is, we are basically mapping the existing data with the updated data, sending it using the Mongo repository back to database so that it can update it. So first, existing data that we have through this part, right? So this is my existing data. Now I have updated information here in this updated employee object. So what I will do is basically going to use existing dot set. So I'm going to set everything except ID. I'm going to set everything. Update employee dot get name, right? So this is the format that you need to use for every variable. So existing dot set name is done. Now we have email. So updated employee dot get email. Then existing. Now here you can use a constructor as well, but let's go the long way. Then gender, updated employee dot get gender. Then existing dot set department. Here you need to get department. Then existing dot set projects, and then updated employee dot get projects. All right, now we have everything here. So let me enclose this like this, and this should be in a format like this. Now this is going to return me an optional, so I need to use an statement or else throw. So if it is null, in that case I want to throw an exception. So I'm going to return a runtime exception basically, and here I will specify that employee with ID, sorry, employee not found with ID, and then the ID like this. So this is what we have set, but what we missed is to get the updated data back. So for that I need to use employee repo dot save and then existing. like this. Now this is done. Lastly, we have delete operation. So let me rephrase everything here. So this is the existing data. Then I use the existing data, set the existing data with the updated data. Then I send this updated data to the database. It returned the data back, and it is going to return the data back after saving it. So this employee object is going to have that updated information. Now in case we are not able to find the employee object using this ID, in that case I will throw an exception. So I hope this part is clear. Now lastly, we will have a delete operation, delete employee, and again this is going to be based on ID, otherwise you will delete everything, right? Now here I don't need to return anything because it doesn't actually return anything. Delete by ID and ID. Alright, so we are done with our service layer. Now comes the most important part, which is your controller. So let's create that. So let me first create a package. New package controller, and let's create a class. Let's name this employee controller for obvious reasons. Now I'm going to have some REST calls here because I want to keep things simple, so no UI as of now. I will try to make a similar video so that I can show you guys how to make it through UI. For now, let's annotate this with REST controller. Now the mapping that we are going to use for every mapping is going to be stated in request mapping. So the common mapping that we are going to use is going to be API/employees. Alrighty. Now here we will have an object of employee service. Let's auto wire this. Okay. Now we will have our REST calls. So first is going to be your create employee. So public, the type that we are going to return is going to be response entity, and I'm going to have the entire employee object returned so that I can see what got created. So create. Now here we will have the data from the request body. So let's annotate this with request body and employee. Now this is going to return response entity as we know now, and this is going to return okay, employee service dot create employee and employee. Now this is going to be a post mapping because we are setting some data. So post mapping, and this is the mapping that we are going to have here. Now we will have a get mapping, which is again going to return response entity but with the list of employees. So get all. Here we don't need to provide anything as an argument, so this is simply going to return response entity dot okay dot and then employee service dot get all employees. Now let's annotate this as get because this is a get operation. Now we have get by ID as well, so let me copy this, paste it here. Here we will have an argument basically. So first let me do get by ID, and here we will have a path variable. So string ID, and here instead of get all employees we will have get employee by ID. Alright, now here in the mapping we will have a path variable. So now this get employee by ID basically returns an optional, so we cannot use this. So let's do employee service dot get employee by ID. If it is okay, in that case map it as response entity dot okay. Alright, also if it is not, then in that case I want to throw an exception. So response entity dot not found dot build. So not an exception but not found response. Alright, so this is not going to return the list but just employee object. Alright, now we are done with our second mapping as well. Now we will have a put operation for update. So public response entity employee update. Now here again, if you know or if you remember, we will have two things. First is going to be your path variable as string id. Second is going to be your employee object from request body. So the mapping is going to be put mapping, and here we will have path variable. So something like this. Now here we are simply going to return response entity dot okay, and here we will say employee service dot update employee id comma employee. Now lastly we will have a delete operation. So public response entity, this is going to return void, so void delete. So employee service dot delete employee and based on id. So this is going to be a path variable string id. Now once we are done with this, we are simply going to return response entity dot no content dot build please. So the mapping is going to be like delete mapping id. Alright, now we are done with our controller class as well. Alright, so now let's run this application and test it out. So let's run this. Wait for it. So Tomcat started on port 8080. Now let's open Postman. Alright, so now let's hit the mapping localhost 8080 API and then employees. Now this is going to be a post mapping because we first want to create a data. Now in the headers we don't have anything, so let's put content type and the value as JSON. Now let's go to body, let's go to raw, and here we want to use JSON data, right? This we already know. So first thing is we need to provide a name. So let's do Sam Smith, and then email samsmith@gmail.com. Then the gender male. Now talking about department name, and let's say engineering, and description. Now remember here, if you make any typo in the column name, it will fail. So that's okay, you will learn, and you should always learn by making mistakes, so that's okay. Alright, now similarly we will have projects as well. So you can choose to ignore it. If you just ignore it, it won't insert anything. You can keep it empty like this if this person is not allocated to any project yet. But if it is allocated, but if she is allocated, in that case provide the details. What's the harm, right? So let's say project A allocation as, let's say, 60. Now let me copy this. Let's say project B, and this is going to be 40. Now let's send this, and here you see that I got the ID back, and rest of the details are similar, and this is expected. This is what we have seen while creating a document in Studio late as well. So Studio, if you come to Studio 3T, now if you see, we had John Doe and Jane Doe previously. Now if I run this, I have Sam Smith as well. So let's go to tree view. So let me close this up, and in the third document you see that the name is Sam Smith, email is this, gender is male, then you have department name and description. In the projects you have two, so first is project A 60, project B 40, right? So this is working fine. Now let's hit other mapping. So this is your first one. Now let's do a get mapping. So if you remember, get mapping is very simple. Just use this instead of post, use get and hit send. Now you see that we have first document as John Doe, the second document as Jane Doe, and third one as Sam Smith. So again, this is working just fine. Now let's talk about get employee by ID. So here everything is going to be similar to what we have done in get operation, but here we need to provide the ID. Now talking about ID, this is where it gets tricky. In the Studio 3T we provided object object ID method, and then provided the value. But what if I just use this, provide it here like this and hit send? It returns the data back. So this works just fine. All right. Now why is this happening? So MongoDB internally uses object ID for this column ID, right? This one. Now when you insert a document into a MongoDB collection without specifying any ID, MongoDB automatically generates one using object ID type like this, right? So this is a string. So this looks like a string, but it's not a string, but a special BSON object, right? Which is your object ID. Now why Studio 3T needs object ID declaration explicitly? So in tools like Studio 3T, you are writing MongoDB shell queries directly. So you must explicitly cast the ID column string to an object ID. So this is not a string, remember, right? This is BSON type. Now talking about why is it working on Postman. So in your Spring Boot REST API, we have written the controller like this. So since employee repository dot get employee by ID, this method internally casts the string to object ID automatically thanks to Spring, thanks to, what was the dependency? Spring Boot starter data MongoDB. So Spring data MongoDB is smart enough to detect that your ID field is of type object ID, and if you pass a valid 24 character hex string, it auto converts it to object ID. So Spring Boot is making your life easy. Alright, now let's talk about put operation. So let's do this and put, and for put you need to again provide the employee ID. So I'm going to go with the first one for John Doe, and here if you see, we don't have any description for HR, so I'm going to provide that detail. So let me come back here, let me provide the ID. Now in the body raw you need to provide the details. So just copy everything, paste it here, and in the description just mention human resources team. or department, or just let's do human resources. Right now, let's send this and you get human resources back. And if you fetch this, you can see that we have the description now. All right, now delete operation is rather easy, so let's do delete here. Just provide the ID and click send, so it will return 204 no content. And if you try to fetch this ID, this employee with the ID this, you would see 404 not found. And if you see entire list, you can see that we have Jane Doe and Sam Smith. We don't have John Doe anymore. Alright, so this is the functionality that I wanted to showcase in this video. I really hope that you learned something new and unique. If you did, or if you loved this content, then please like the video, share this video, and please subscribe to my channel. So I really hope that I will meet you in some another video. Till then, stay happy, keep learning, and bye bye.